Hello, hello. The 24th day of the new year, 5 minutes after noon. It's snowing outside. Okay, folks, start writing. Let's see, I think we're gonna finish this chapter, this session, I really do. D had managed to get some elsewhere. D had pushed 3 cars ahead, with no backup. I was wondering what the hell he was doing, being on his own. He had his assault rifle. Right, he decided to check his M16. He still had plenty of ammo. Grenades and other things. That was what he was lacking. He hopped down at the rear entrance. At the front entrance of the next car was a storage unit. Storage type. He opened the door. From cover and then leaned in. He found two terrorists waiting in some hall alcove 5 meters off, wielding AKs. They opened up through the door. Open up through the door. D ducked back. D then, after they had put about 60 rounds through the air, D leaned out and opened fire. Reply. 2 3-round bursts. First caught the first one rifleman, the one farther back, and he flew and laid lifeless against the steel floor. Give it up, D ordered. Fuck you, terrorist replied. D caught him reloading and fired, putting a burst right through the guy's right arm. He stumbled into the open but didn't fall. What did fall was his rifle, which dropped and shattered against the floor. Shattered, not shattered. Shattered. That'd be a pretty flimsy rifle. And the AK is apparently not a flimsy rifle. It's apparently pretty tough. After you read the stories about it. The fellow stood there, breathing heavily, glaring at D, looking like the angriest man in the world. D could only see the man's blazing eyes. He wondered how the rest of his face was contorted. It seemed like the anger had completely overtaken every other emotion. They only saw anger, not pain. Like all the pain had been overridden by the anger. Hold it, he grunted, coming into the open. His M16 raised. The man started reaching for a sidearm on his hip. There was no point to it. D had him a gun trained on him, chest, and even if he was fastest draw in the west. He... fastest draw. Let's see, eastern. Fastest draw. Gotta check. Drawl? No, drawl is an accent, I think. Southern drawl. Drawl. Okay. You know, he was the fastest draw in the West. He wouldn't have been able to get D. Don't do it, D warned. And kept moving. When he was within 2 meters of the guy freed his pistol. D had no choice but to gun him down right there, putting 3 bursts right through his chest. Guy dropped the gun, his pistol, some big Colt looking thing, some big Colt 45 type of gun, and he tumbled to the floor, actually hitting and rolling off his friend who died about a minute earlier. D confirmed the man's death, the first man's death, checking for a pulse as he knelt by the body. D was still kneeling when that tank man from earlier came around the corner at the end of the hall. He stood there, MG-42 in one hand, and one gun mount, while the other hand was free and flexing. The man had been standing in that alcove for the shootout. If he had come through the door on the other side of the car, D would have seen him. D didn't panic when he saw the tank man. He quickly jumped back, spun around, and dove around his corner, all before any gunfire could sweep him up. The tank man opened up viciously. There were 100 enemies in front of him. He tore up the walls, floor, ceiling, and the 2 dead men in the hallway, taking some fingers off the still shivering hand of one of the dead guys. Dead. He opened up the top of the skull of the other fella, spilling blood and still hot blood and brains about the metal floor. He retrieved from the train then, and climbed up, get to the roof. He decided he figured he could. He decided on bypassing the tank man. There were cars. He knew the cars ahead of and behind him. He passed a warning to his comrades behind him. We got a tank man on board, he noted. This was not the first time. He mentioned that D wouldn't have kept his comrades in the dark about something that dangerous. Tank man. I could have lost the tank man bushwhacked. Some squad with just rifles. That would have been it for them. They would have all been dead. Tank Man, I guess, in this universe would be like a boss battle or something, I guess. They're getting more and more common. I mean, in the universe, they were there was only like a few of them during the start of World War II. Then there was more and more as the war went on, and now they're like, I don't know, they're like almost like some kind of elite heavy armor man to use as a spearhead as you're like taking a building or something. Probably not practical in real life in any way, but you know, there's a lot of stuff like that in fiction where it's cool, so put it in there. And would have all been dead. He's in car 5. He reported. Added. He's on his own. It's a storage car. He's on his own. Get some heavy ordnance. We got what we need to handle a Tank Man. Milk applied on the line. Applied. Her D's superiors left the line. We'll take him out. You just do what you can. Rescue more hostages. What the hell is D doing here? Yeah, earlier. Running around on his own like he's got a death wish. He should be... You're supposed to fight with a squad in a war, you know? You're not supposed... It's not like the video games where one guy goes around fighting 1,000 people, killing all of them, and then rescuing the princess. I wish more World War II games ended with you rescuing a princess. I don't think any I've played have, sadly. It's like one of the settings where it would make sense, because there were still princesses back then. We got princesses now, but they don't actually rule over anything. Back then, they actually did have some people did have some power. Though they usually got ousted when they were unpopular. Like the king of Romania, he got ousted because he was throwing all these crazy parties and stuff when his population was starving. You know, Romania wasn't exactly a very prosperous nation back then. And it only got worse when Stalin took it over. But that's another story. Right. He replied. D intended on following that plan, but in the next car, he found the instrument of Tank Man's destruction. He found an RPG, an HE warhead, the kind of weapon that could take out a light tank with ease. And they still got light tanks at this point in history? Yeah, I think so. I think the French main tank is a light tank, technically. Even though light tanks are kind of made obsolete by medium tanks. And there were a few extra rockets. You're mine, whoever you are. He muttered it. The Tank Man, who couldn't hear him, being a whole car away. He wondered if maybe Wanda Moon was in there. Probably not, since she was. The cars down the street. Nothing more annoying than stupid distractions. Probably not, since she was... Probably not. Tank Men had to be... were usually very strong, meaty fellows. The man in the Tank Man, like the man in the armor suit, is usually someone more meaty and bigger, stronger than the average soldier. Think like Animal Mother from Full Metal Jacket. Let's see, D. Wanda was a strong woman, but not physically stronger, but not as strong as a man. Strong as a man, a more regular-sized man. She certainly wasn't going to be able to handle all that weight and heat. There was probably some random Jade terrorist in there. There's probably some random Jade terrorist in there. Back at the Tank Man's train car. The Tank Man advanced around the corner cautiously, without caution, finding that nobody was waiting for him. The soldier, whoever he was, had escaped, had fled. Tank Man supposed was the most rational move. That was the most rational move. The man didn't even grenades or AT weapons or a rocket launcher. It took a pretty powerful grenade to disable a suit like this. The Tank Man model was state of the art. And the MG, while from 2 world wars ago, was still very dependable. Bloodkins in West Bloodka were using it, or still using it. Their standard MG. Just under a different name. The Tank Man didn't advance to the next car. He started back down the way he came. He started back down the way he came from. The cars ahead toward the engine. Did I call it the caboose in earlier part? I hope not. I'm such a dum-dum. Calling an engine a caboose and a caboose an engine. Or the engine still had plenty of his comrades. Still had plenty of men defending them. The Tank Man in their ranks probably slow the enemy down. The Tank Man's radio was malfunctioning. Hey folks, here's a tip on how to get out of a rut when writing. Switch the point of view to somebody else. Like the Tank Man. Even though I don't have any backstory at all for this guy. I guess his backstory is he's just a big meaty terrorist. A bad guy. Heavy. A mook. I like mook characters. I like having as many scenes in my stories where mooks get killed by pretty much everything. I think my favorite person to kill mooks with currently is Arlen, my standard protagonist. It's cool, his gunfights, because he uses 4 arms and he just like a whole firing, like a whole squad is moving, is firing with him, you know what I mean? A gun in each hand. Let's see. And he was out of communication with his superior, Londa Moon. Luna moon. Is that how you pronounce it? Luna. Even if the radio was functioning, it would probably be jammed. Tank Man heard guys earlier muttering how their radios weren't working. The fellas who dropped on the train probably brought some kind of let's see, radio jammer with them. Or maybe it was somebody with a weird power. Somehow the psychic or biological ability to jam up radios. That sounds pretty stupid now that I think about it, but you know, if superpowers weren't stupid, there wouldn't be any superpower stories. Wouldn't want to be a mook in this universe where you have superhumans, psychics, monsters, literally monsters, not just psychological ones. Oh, and there's those too. Yeah, plenty of evil people in this universe, just like in real life. At least we don't have to worry about psychic and monsters in the real life, I assume. But you know, you never know. Can you provide me proof that vampires don't exist? Can you? Nowhere in any dark corner of this world. There's some dark castle in Europe, some basement, some big old house. You tell me there couldn't be vampires? They couldn't possibly exist? Exactly. That's probably a logical fallacy because, you know, if you can't see it, it might exist. Let's see. The Tank Man would probably have to abandon his fine suit when the gunfire. But he escaped from the train. Jumping with a Tank Man suit on, probably a death sentence. Even if you dropped a mere meter or two. It was like jumping. It was like falling down some stairs with an anvil tied to your neck. Abruptly, the Tank Man was thrown off his feet. Not from the train, anything the train did. But suddenly, somebody had blasted him about the backside with a rocket launcher. The report was thunderous, and Tank Man didn't realize he was screaming till it faded away. He was left slumped on his front, with his head pressed against the metal floor, so he could only see darkness. The Tank Man body about him was complete dead weight, inactivated. Totally deactivated. And both the respiration fan and the cooling fan had been switched off, meaning the Tank Man was likely to suffocate in mere minutes. Also, his MG-42 had been thrown somewhere. The Tank Man wondered what its condition was. The Tank Man didn't panic, even though he was in a nightmare scenario. The ultimate for a Tank Man. Totally immobile, totally in the dark, and with oxygen dwindling. He was going to suffocate to death here. And there wasn't a damn thing he could do Got it. The tank man heard his killer approaching. And on that note, we sign off here, folks. See you later. Have a nice day.